heard Natalia talking about, how difficult it can be to enter into a country and face number one, entry barriers, then red tapeism, bureaucracy, timelines required. We have moved, like I said, from the 1991 license Raj to now a very open economy where, so let me take you to the economic survey of 2022-23, where India has reduced around 40,000, and that's a rough estimate. Let's say above 35,000 compliances to foster ease of doing business as on 17th January 2023. This I'm quoting from the Economic Survey 22-23. And the survey mentions that administrations across the country have been reducing various compliances for businesses under the BRAP, we call it BRAP 2020, fifth edition, which is the Business Reform Action Plan. And this Business Reform Action Plan has been launched by the Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, which is the DPIIT, in June 2022. And the BRAP, like I said earlier, it oversaw 7,496 reforms which were implemented across states and union territories. The survey has stated in the document that reducing the compliance burden on businesses and citizens is a continuous exercise where we will leapfrog to the next level of governance excellence and improve the ease of living. So, from an ease of doing business, we want to also uh, improve the ease of living. So, collectively, ministries in India, states in India, and union territories have collectively decriminalized more than 3,500 legal provisions which related to minor technical or procedural defaults. And that itself has brought in so much vigor and so much vitality into the business sector. And you find that there is a single digital platform for investors for approvals and clearances, which has garnered 4.3 lakh unique visitors as of January 10th, 2023. So these are some of the initiatives which are taken by the government of India, and under the Companies Act, which is the amended Companies Act 2013, the government of India has also decriminalized minor economic offenses. So these are some very revitalizing steps which have created a lot of ripples, not just in the Indian economy, but also sent signals abroad that here is a welcoming market. This is a market that is welcoming foreign investment, which wants to join hands. We want to cut down on red tapeism, and the result is for all to see. Of course, there's a lot of critique of this ranking, but according to the World Bank, India ranked 63rd in 2022 in ease of doing business across the world among 190 countries. And this is a stark improvement from its rank from 142 in 2014. So the pledge, of course, of the Modi government is to take the country to the top 50 in the ease of doing business rankings. As much as we would like to, sort of not believe the ranking styles, the fact remains that this is something we can't avoid. We have to have some parameters for rankings, and this is where we stand as far as the World Bank is concerned. Quickly, Pooja, will I have 5 minutes for touching upon two important points?
Yes, ma'am.
Since it's
Please go ahead. Yes.
Thank you, thank you. So I would like to touch upon the insolvency regime. So India has a very robust and young insolvency regime, insolvency bankruptcy code, which is just about 6 to 7 years old. And it also it's important for this discussion because resolving insolvency reflects the ease of exit from business also. So while we are giving an impetus for businesses to enter, we're also saying that that in case you're not able to function for XYZ reason, we also have an ease of exit option. And India's rank has it has improved by 56 places to 52 from 108 previous year. The World Bank recognized that with the reorganization procedure that is available through the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code 2016 of India, companies have effective tools to restore financial viability, and creditors have better tools to successfully negotiate and have greater chances to realize the money. So, as a result, the overall recovery rate for creditors has jumped from 26.5 cents on the dollar to 71.6 cents on the dollar. And the time taken for resolving insolvency is reduced significantly from 4.3 years to 1.6 years. So, India, as of now, by far is the best performer in South Asia on resolving insolvency and does better, in fact, than the average for OECD high income economies in terms of the recovery rate, time taken, and cost of proceedings. And here I'm quoting from an article by my very senior colleague, Professor M.S. Sahu, who's now distinguished professor at National Law University, Delhi, and who was the chairperson of the IBBI. And in fact, he goes on to say that there has been considerable learning by every element of the ecosystem in the last 3 years, and the resolution process is now institutionalized, standardized, and professionalized, which definitely results in reduced cost and reduced burden for the country. Lastly, I'd like to briefly touch upon the Competition Amendment Act that has come into India in the last bit of the year 2022, and this has also been 2023. The Amendment Act has come in, and after a lot of discussion, we are almost, I should say, we are at Competition Amendment Act 2.0, because it's a revolutionary phase of competition law in the country. And the Ministry of Corporate Affairs has notified the implementation of certain provisions of the Competition Amendment Act. And these provisions came into effect around the same time when there was an appointment of a robust new Competition Commission of India, and so our Indian competition law framework has entered into an entirely novel and anticipated, space wherein key amendments have been made in detail, where the deal value thresholds, Natalia, I think, mentioned, or Martina mentioned about mergers and acquisitions. Easier to get into mergers and acquisitions because of the change in the deal value thresholds and some more parameters. There is the introduction of a settlement and commitment framework, which makes the leniency plus regime very attractive. And these embolden the competition law regime in India. We are in the talks for an ex ante regime for regulation of big tech firms, not very relevant for this particular discussion, but just to show that India is on the watch out and look out for protecting its economic system, which is now driven by e-commerce. So in that sense, also we are following mostly what the European jurisdiction is giving to us. So these are some. I think I've crossed my time limit. So I think I'll stop here. These are some thoughts I'll leave you with. And again, I extend my thanks to WICCI, India Italy chapter, and to my co-panelists for hearing me out patiently. Namaskar. Thank you so much. I'm open to questions.
Thank you, ma'am. And I think that has given us a very comprehensive understanding of how can one establish or have the ease of doing business in India, particularly starting from establishing a business to the regulatory nuances to the competitive landscape that is existent, and even how can one exit out of the entire process. So I think that has given us a very wholesome understanding. On this note, we would like to take up a few questions if anybody has any. Okay. Natalia, you may
Ye-
please.
Yes, very quick. I think that the difference maybe between India and Italy is that in Italy we have one market. So you have highlight brilliantly the difference that in India you have in different areas, in different from north to south. And in Italy, I must say that these differences are not marked. We have one market, one market. Of course, in the south, there is a little bit more difficult because the infrastructures are a little bit more in area respect to the north, but we have one market, and this is a good thing because it can ease the process of doing investment. mm. And when there is a gap in the market, the gap is covered by the government through incentives. Like if you want to invest in the south, because normally most investors look at the north, but if you want to invest in the south that has a lot of potentiality, there are many incentives. So the government is trying to attract investors and also the human mobility in the south. So it's while we have clients that invest in India, sometimes they're a little bit surprised about the differences between the various area, also at the level of the courts, no, speaking about law and maybe court cases, and so it's I think it is a difference. I was looking at the chart of doing business because you talk about your about the position that India has in the chart, in the rank of doing business. So I had a quick look at rank occupied by Italy. So we need also to do some improvements, but I think we are on the good track. A lot of things have improved during the recent years. And I think in any case, it's despite the rank in some classes, but it's a good country to invest.
Any
I
observation from?
I
Yeah,
saw that
please.
there is a question, but before that, I want just to. Mine is not a question. I think we didn't mention that India and EU are into discussion for the free trade agreement, which is which is fundamental to make things easier between the countries. At the moment, each EU state has a different trade agreement with India. So in light of becoming more and more European and have a simpler set of rules that applies to everyone, this discussion are pivotal in making let's say that in making Europe more Europe, in the sense that this is what the European Union is aiming at. So creating one market that can be seen as one and not with the differences of the states, because in a way, the sizes of the state in Europe are comparable with some of the states that are present in India. India is federal and Europe is not a federal state yet, but it wishes to be, or at least this was the intent when it was created. So I believe that this is also an important point for the future, in the sense that whoever wants to invest now can see this as an improvement in the future regulation, because it should, at least the discussion, I believe, is aiming at that, making life easier and more uniform among the different European countries.
Any observations from Abha ma'am?
No, I second. I think Natalia was, sorry, Martina was making an observation which I have no option but to second, because I don't see anything that I disagree with what she said. Thank you, Pooja.
So thank you, ma'am. So due to paucity of time, we would just take up one question that was directed to you, Abha ma'am. So Mr. Ankit wants to know that if the insolvency and bankruptcy code is implemented all across India. So if you could,
That's an interesting that's an interesting question, because I never looked at the IBC to be, whether it's implemented across states. I always looked at it whether uh, a company which is incorporated under the Companies Act, whether that would be covered under IBC. So I have, in my limited knowledge, I don't think there is any state which has been exempted from the IBC. All companies which are incorporated under the Companies Act 2013 would be covered by the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code.
rightly
Thank you.
put, ma'am. So I think due to paucity of time on this note, we'll conclude our webinar here itself. I'm really grateful and thankful for each one of you for gracing our audience and, for just being around and having this discussion.